Johnny Silverhand came into this world as Robert John Linder. He was born in Texas in 1988, and as a young lad he was a massive fan of Wendy O. Williams and seen her as the greatest rocker girl who ever lived. Fun fact, Wendy is a real person and the lead singer of punk rock band Plasmatics. Linder, at a young age, did decide he wanted to go fight for his country, and with a wee bit of lying about his age, he enlisted to the US military. And it wasn't too long before he was shipped off to Nicaragua, where he was part of the Second Central American War in 2003. It was during this war that one of Linder's close buddies died protecting him. Not long after this though, information really did start to come out about the shady stuff that the US government were up to during this war and how it manipulated people to believe that they were fighting the good fight. When all this leaked, many of the soldiers fought back in the only way they knew how. They deserted the army. And the good old government, with their bottomless media budget and the lack of moral compass, spun this event and made the American public believe these young men and women were deserters and should be loathed. Linder, still living with the tragedy of a lost friend and then finding out the whole war was built on lies, also deserted his post, which only cost him not only his friend, but his arm. These events would change Linder forever, and he decided to leave everything behind and head for the City of Dreams. Once he arrived in Night City, he stayed in the Hotel Pista Sofia for a whole month and mulled over what happened and what the hell to do next. After his time in the hotel, Linder decided to change his name to Johnny Silverhand. In reference to his shiny new arm, he was now ready to start his crusade against the corrupt government and corporations. His method of war at the time was not bombs or guns, but a war of words, as he would go on to form the legendary band Samurai with his good friend Kerry Eurydyne. They would eventually recruit Denny, Nancy and Henry to complete the band, and go on to get a record deal from Universal Recording after Jack Masters seen them at one of their gigs in the Rainbow Condensa bar. I may have not pronounced that right. Samurai rose to the top of the charts overnight with Johnny's revolutionary music, which was the spark that started the rocker boy movement. But as a tale as old as time, rock bands don't usually last forever, and Samurai was no different. With infighting and a mountain of personal issues, the final nail in the coffin was when Nancy, the keyboardist, finally had enough of her abusive boyfriend and chucked him out the window, which landed her in jail. Without Nancy, the band split up in 2008, but Johnny, still one of the biggest rocker boys on the planet, wasn't ready to throw in the towel. His crusade was not over, and he was ready to go solo. But a wee record label called DBS Music found out about Silverhand's past as a deserter and decided to blackmail him. The gist of it was, sign with us or we got to tell everybody. But Silverhand gives no fucks and signed back with Universal Music and released the album called Sins of Your Brothers, where he admitted to being a deserter and aired out all the dirty laundry and skeletons of what the government were up to during the Second Central American War. It was due to this album that a lot of people changed their tune. Tune? Get it? Because he's a musician? Yeah, moving on. Once the 2010s rolled round, Johnny continued his crusade, famously holding a free gig in Japantown to highlight the brutality of the NCPD, especially in their campaign to stop the homeless riots. Eventually, Johnny reconnected with an old-time flame, Alt Cunningham, a well-known netrunner. After a gig at the Hammer in 2013, Johnny tried to walk out home after a heated argument, but they were jumped by Arisaka thugs. Johnny was left injured and truly believed Arisaka was doing this to hurt Johnny. But in truth, Arisaka was after Alt for her knowledge of the Soul Killer project. Side note, Soul Killer was an experimental program that could take all of someone's memories, personalities and consciousness and put it onto a shard, effectively making that person immortal. Wanting to save Alt, Johnny hooked up with his ex-rogue, a famed solo of Night City, Santiago, the leader of the Aldecados, and a reporter named Lyle Thompson. They were going to infiltrate Arisaka Tower and save Alt. But they needed a distraction, and this came in the form of a concert in front of the tower, which eventually led to a riot. Once the riot was in full swing though, Johnny and his team snuck in, but Toshihiro Harada figured out what happened and in a panic decided to use Soul Killer on Alt, entrapping her consciousness with inside the Arisaka mainframe. By the time Johnny and his crew arrived, it was too late. Johnny, in a fist of anger, killed Toshihiro. He disconnected Alt and held her, not knowing Alt was still alive somewhere inside the Arisaka mainframe. Johnny in his grief left Night City with Santiago and lived with the Nomads for a good few years. Not much is really known of what he got up to at this time. When Johnny returned to Night City in the 2020s, he was contacted by none other than Morgan Blackhand. Blackhand wanted to put a team together to assault Arisaka Tower. This included Rogue and also Spider Murphy, an upcoming netrunner. The goal was to set off a nuke at the tower and end in the fourth corporate war, but Johnny had other plans. He wanted to know if Alt was truly alive inside Arisaka's mainframe. Him and his crew eventually battle their way through to the Soul Killer labs and liberate Alt from the mainframe. We don't actually know what happens at this moment, if it was Johnny that let Alt leave beyond the black wall or not, but what we do know is she was freed from Arisaka. But this mission wasn't over, and they'd freed Alt, but they were pinned down by none other than legendary merc Adam Smasher. Johnny, with a new sense of duty and honour, left his cover blasting Smasher with his Malorian arms pistol to give the team the opening to flee. Smasher, in a moment of respect and shock at the Rocker Boy's bravery, turned round and cut him in half with his auto shotgun. Well, that's one way to show someone respect, I suppose. Spider Murphy, watching Johnny dying, decided to make a dash for Johnny. She reached inside her jacket and pulled out a data slug that was a gift from Alt many years ago. She told Johnny she was sorry and inserted the chip into his skull. She reached for a cyber deck only to realise it was broken. The team eventually made it out with the bomb going off. Now, Johnny's engram recalls these events very differently, which contradicts these events. But in the story Black Dog, we get the threads that connect what truly happened that night. Now that's a story for another day. Sometime before the events of Cyberpunk 2077, Johnny's engrams ends up on the Relic 2.0, which was stolen by Yorinobu Arisaka to really just annoy his dad. He kept it in a wee vault at Konpeki Plaza. This is when V comes into the picture, a wee low-level merc with their pal Jackie Wells. They get hired by Dexter Deshawn to sneak into Konpeki Plaza and steal the relic. All is going swimmingly, till Saburo Arisaka shows up to confront his son. This eventually ends with Yorinobu killing his father and putting the whole plaza on high alert. V and Jackie do their best to escape, eventually falling through a skylight which breaks the case and injures Jackie. In a desperate act to complete the gig, Jackie puts the relic into his neuroport in hopes of keeping it safe. They both manage to escape, but Jackie was not in the best shape. With his dying breaths, he gives V the relic. V, with no real choice, puts the relic into his own slot and goes to find Dexter. But Dexter had other ideas, no loose ends, and shoots V in the head. The relic does save V's life, but in doing so wakes up Johnny's engram. Johnny at first decides to take over V's body by force, but does realise he is better off working with V to ensure his own survival. This leads him onto the story of Cyberpunk 2077, where V just wants the relic out of his head and Johnny wants revenge against Arisaka. During the events of 2077, Johnny would appear on numerous occasions, mainly just to belittle and mock V. But as the time passes, their relationship changes, a friendship grows a bond between the two. Johnny lets V know about his past and what caused him to become the man he is, and why he can't stand the corporation so much. Throughout 2077, V is given many choices and avenues about fixing the relic problem. From teaming up with the Nomads and assaulting Arisaka Tower again, maybe V goes to Rogue for help, or does V just sell his soul and join Arisaka? I was actually going to go into the endings, but I truly believe they are for you to decide. Silverhand's fate is in the hands of V, and that means in your hands. So, what would you decide? Well, Silverhand's a bit of a character, eh? I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and hope to see you in the next one. Catch you later.